What is up, guys? It is Quadash here. We are back. We are gonna do a nice little reaction, different kind of video. If you can't tell by the intro, we are gonna be looking into Arcane by League of Legends at the first episode. When I watched it, I was super hyped. I couldn't wait for it to come out. Now that it is out, I watched it about 3 or 4 times, and I started to pick out some small little details here and there that just blew my mind. Those small little Easter eggs that I didn't see anyone else talk about, so I wanted to bring them up. But if you didn't know, just a quick overview. Before I go into this quick overview, I do want to state that there are spoilers throughout this episode. So if you haven't seen the first episode or even the other 2 episodes that are out currently, please watch them before watching this. Press pause, watch it, then come back to here. But yes, this is my spoiler warning, and back into my overview. Arcane is about the story of Vi and Jinx, 2 sisters in League of Legends, good side, bad side, and their origin story. And I was really interested in how they were going to kind of show the hatred for each other, what causes it, what caused them to grow separate. So, yeah. The intro song, I think, sets an awesome dynamic between Piltover and Zaun. It is Powder, or Jinx, that is singing about to a friend asking for some help. And if you didn't notice, Zaun is like the ugly black sheep of the family, where Piltover is rich and prosperous and Zaun is forced to suffer in their toxic waste. And you can see that Vi and Jinx are kind of walking through the destruction between the fighting of Zaun and Piltover, which leads to them running into Vander. So this is where kind of the first Easter egg debate is kind of about. Apparently a lot of people are saying that Vander is going to turn into Warwick. How? I'm not quite sure, but there are some hints throughout the show that it is leaning towards that way. Looking at Warwick's bibliography, it does also kind of lean towards that. It does state, though many think of Warwick as no more than a beast, buried beneath the fury lies the mind of a man, a gangster who put down his blade and took up a new name to live a better life. But no matter how hard he tried to move on, he can never escape the sins of his past. Also, this is a nod to a future episode, but Singe would reveal his subject's true nature, the deadly beast hidden within a good man. Towards the bottom, it gets kind of interesting. Warwick struggled to recall a single memory from his past. All he could see was blood. But then he heard a little girl screaming something he couldn't understand. It sounded like a name. He'd already forgotten his. So this would kind of allude to, in the future, Singe would grab a hold of Vander, turning him into Warwick. So I love that dynamic. As you see the Piltover Enforcer leaving back to Piltover, Vi is angry at them and kind of, wants revenge. But as the dynamic changes, she looks over at Piltover, and the song turns into a more hopeful note, which kind of pushes the fact that Vi will join Piltover in the future. But I did want to point out, there's the one statue on the right side of Piltover that kind of has the orb spinning around it, and I just can't put my finger on what that quite is. It kind of reminds me of Oblivion Orb, or also Spellbinder, or maybe potentially the Globe of Trust. They all kind of have this rotating mechanic that is very prevalent in the Piltover society. So for most TV shows, I tend to skip the intros, especially on Netflix when they give that option, but this is actually kind of an important intro for the show. It does go through all the characters. You do have the young Vi and young Powder. You do have Jace that is shown, then Victor, which is my favorite character in League of Legends. Then you have Caitlyn, Heimerdinger, a character that is going to be kind of important later on in the other shows. This character kind of reminds me of the astute academic in the Legends of Runeterra, but she is an important player in this show. And then, of course, to wrap it all up, it is Vi and Powder in the hands of Vander with Sokol looming over.
One day, I'm gonna ride in one of those things.
And one day,
I'm gonna shoot one of them down.
I find the interaction between Milo and Powder very interesting because Powder is still full of hope and love, and she is yearning to have a better life so she can have fun. You know, she wants to ride around in a blimp, and Milo says that he wants to shoot one down. In her theme, she actually does shoot one down, which I thought was kind of an interesting correlation between the young Powder and the older Jinx. As the kids are running and jumping from balcony to balcony to break into this penthouse, they come across this balcony that, if you look on the ground, there are some cupcakes. Now, this isn't such a big deal, but one of the characters, Caitlyn, in the game does have an ability that has cupcakes as traps. So I don't know if this is a nod to her, but I thought that was pretty cool. And they seem to put a lot of focus on the cupcakes, so I think that is kind of important. As the kids are going through the penthouse, Powder comes across something that she calls...
Whoa, I think this is a real Valdiani.
A real Valdiani. I have no idea what that is. Why did the creators put the time to emphasize that? I looked it up and it's yarn. So if you guys know what that is, let me know in the comments down below because I have no idea what it is, but it seems like it's pretty important. So the item that Milo finds, I think, is the transmodulator. I think that's how you say it. The transmodulator, which is what Heimerdinger actually says in one of his lines in League of Legends. The reason why I say that is because later on in the episode, Jace and Victor use it to unlock Hextech. As the three are rummaging through the apartment, Powder goes off on her own, and as she opens the door, the room is littered with all different stuff. The one thing that kind of catches my eye, it looks like there is a health potion on the desk. But also, if you didn't notice, this apartment belongs to Jace. And the reason why I say that is because there is schematics to Jace's hammer. Along with the schematics to the hammer is a chest. And I believe this is kind of a nod to the Legends of Runeterra weekly vault chest that you can get as you play along. And inside this chest are 12 blue crystals. I believe that those are mana crystals that is used in the games to use the cards, which is why they are very powerful and actually will end up destroying the building. So I am 100% speculating on this, but as they're running through the streets of Piltover, they push aside a young boy with blonde hair, and I would love to speculate that this is Ezreal. The age kind of fits with Vi and Powder, and he would belong to Piltover at this time. His bibliography even says that Ezreal took great pleasure in invading the campus wardens, navigating the tunnels beneath the lecture halls as easily as the library rooftops. He even practiced lockpicking, sneaking into teachers' offices, and rearranging their belongings for his own amusement. So it wouldn't be crazy for him just to be wandering the streets, just enjoying the everyday life of Piltover, as 4 kids happen to blow up a building and run through the same city streets. So as the group of 4 are making it back to Zaun, they come across Deckard. As far as I know, he's not a champion in League of Legends. He's just a tool used by Silco to get more information on the street. And they do have this awesome fight scene while they all are trying to attack each other, and Powder's off on the side, because she's not very violent at this time. She's still very young and very innocent, and even the music that is played in the intro is reoccurred in this scene as they are fighting. So as Powder is running away from one of the thugs that is chasing after her, on the wall there's actually some paintings of Teemo mushrooms, which I thought was pretty interesting, which is not going to be the last time we see those. But there's also a painting of a Mordekaiser's helmet, which is also the symbol for Pentakill. I just think the symbol of having Pentakill on the wall is really, really cool, a nod to also their newly released album, as Milo is complaining that Powder has lost all of the belongings from Jace's apartment. If you look in the top right corner on the wall is actually a picture of a gentleman Cho. I thought that was really interesting. Having Gentleman Cho is fantastic because I think those are one of the coolest skins, Gentleman Cho'Gath and a Gentleman Gnar. I like that Milo is the first one to bring up the word Jinx. As we know her now, it's Powder, not Jinx. And so I'm guessing that as she grows up and starts identifying more with Jinx, I'm pretty sure this sentence will be a reoccurring theme or a reoccurring memory for Powder.
Every time she comes, something goes wrong. She jinxes every job.
So the transition from Piltover to Zon, I think, is one of the coolest ones. The music from B. Miller starts to kick in, and as they are walking through the streets of Zon, two characters with white masks and purple coats and hats walk by them. I don't know who they are, but the masks resemble similar characteristics to that of Blood Moon Sivir and Blood Moon Callista. As I mentioned before, we were going to see tea mushrooms again as they are walking the streets. The vendor has some tea mushrooms in a basket as well as a single baby Krug. Now this isn't really much of a speculation or a Easter egg of any sort, but I do have to say that Huck definitely looks like the guy from Treasure Planet. I just had to point that out because that's the only thing that I could think of every time I saw his face.
So you're Vander.
Hound of the Underground.
Hound of the Underground. Like I said before, this is another nod that maybe Vander will become Warwick. So sometimes I see stuff in the background or something like that I'm not too sure what they are, but in this scene there is a blue coat with yellow buttons and fringes on the side. I would say that it looks similar to the Enforcer's uniform. Maybe it's an older version of it, but I think it's important because it is in multiple shots when Powder and Vi and Milo are talking, also when Vander is talking to Vi as well, also when Vander is grabbing the bag and going to Benzo. He grabs a chalice, and I would have to say that maybe the chalice of harmony, since especially at this moment Vander is trying to bring harmony back between Zon and Piltover. I do like this scene with Powder rummaging through the garbage again as she is trying to create more inventions that she likes to use instead of fighting, and this time she grabs these metal traps or claws or you could say chompers maybe, that may be alluding to her ability flame chompers. Okay, so for here, when Vander goes to Benzo's shop, there are tons and tons of Easter eggs in here. So I'm going to go quick through here. So immediately, right when he goes to the door, there are two main Easter eggs. You have right above the door is Trendemir's helmet right there. Boom. Which is actually the one reason why I started this video, was because I saw the helmet. I was like, oh my gosh, how many other Easter eggs are there? And if you actually look at Benzo while he is under the magnifying glass, he is holding the Heart of Gold, which is a very old item in League of Legends that no longer exists. So for those of you who didn't see that, it's because it's not really in the game anymore. It's one of the older items. Also in Benzo's shop, we get to see Echo for the first time, also known as Little Man. He's the one that gave the information to Vi and her group about Jace's apartment. But as he's fixing the clock, if you look in the middle of the screen, there is a hat with a face on it. That is actually Rabadon's death cap, which is a very strong AP item in the game of League of Legends.
Echo, what's going on with that thing?
Cannon Pinion's still busted.
Finish it later.
When Echo is leaving the shop, it also looks like on the books to the bottom right of the screen, that I would also have to say that might be the Oblivion Orb, as this one is actually an orb, just all the rings are closed and neatly put onto the book. It's a speculation, it's a possibility, but I think that's kind of neat if it is. Vander goes to grab his right arm, and this is going to be later explained in future episodes that him and Silco had a fight and his right arm got cut, and this is what he's referring to, that there are worse things in Zon than the Enforcers, is that he knows that Silco is there somewhere out there.
There's worse things than Enforcers out there.
So Echo says that this weird guy comes to the shop and buys a bunch of trinkets and whatnots. Is this Jace? I think it has to be Jace because Echo follows it to Jace's apartment or penthouse. And my main question is, why is Jace going to Zon to buy these small trinkets? I would assume that Piltover would have better shop, better items, just over around better area to be in. as a person of Piltover, I don't think he would feel too safe to be in Zaun. So I don't really know. I don't have an answer for that. If you guys have an answer for it, hopefully that might be explained later on why Jace was in Zaun purchasing trinkets. But I think that was a really cool way of explaining how Little Man found Jace's penthouse.
This weirdo came into the shop, bought a whole bunch of stuff Benzo only keeps there for display. He paid in gold and didn't even haggle. I charged him double price.
So going back into Benzo's shop, if you actually look at the mask to the very right, it is the mask for the Haunting Guise, and the mask in the middle is the mask of Leandri's Torment. Both of those are AP items that kind of no longer exist in the game. Leandri's Torment kind of changed a little bit. And then if you look very carefully in the corner of that shelf, there is a small little trinket. That is actually an old support item called Eye of the Oasis. That is no longer in the game as well, but it's cool that they have that there right there on the corner. So I don't know why they put emphasis on her rabbit or stuffed animal so much, but I feel like it's important. I feel like I've seen it somewhere in the game. I don't know where. It's one of those things similar to the blue coat. I don't know where I've seen it, but I feel like it's important. If you know where it's from, if you have any hints or ideas, again, leave in the comment below. Let me know.
When I was a kid, some guy took my favorite toy and threw it up there.
The city is going to respect us. It is a very interesting phrase that Vi says because it applies to both Jinx and Vi. They both get respect from the city in different ways. Jinx creates havoc and mayhem and kind of scares people to respect her, while Vi goes the opposite route and becomes an enforcer, and that's how she gains her respect.
This city's gonna respect us.
Our timeline has moved up. It's almost ready.
The first gentleman that talks is actually Silco, as you've seen in the intro. And the man that he is talking to, the mad scientist, is actually Singed. And the reason why I know that those are two separate people is that I will show the credits in the end, and they have Singed and Silco, two separate people, two separate characters. I know that some people were saying that Silco becomes Singed, and I just don't see that happening. Another thing I saw on the internet was people were saying that the rat that is transformed and attacks the cat becomes Twitch. I don't see that happening. I don't know where that correlation is because Twitch isn't this massive purple animal that is just super buff and just kills a cat in one swipe. Twitch is a little bit more refined in that way. And according to Twitch's bio, it doesn't say that he was ever experimented on by Singed or any scientists of Zaun. It does state that he is a plagued rat by birth and a connoisseur of filth by passion. He is a paranoid and mutated rat that walks upright and roots through the dredges of Zaun for treasure only he truly values. So it is probably some waste that has mutated a random rat into Twitch, not necessarily Singed creating this beast. I will say though that the chemical that Singed uses looks oddly similar to Oracle's extract, which allows you to see invisible wards and such. Again, the item is no longer in the game, but it just kind of looks similar to that with the pink and purple fluorescent colors. So that is it. That is all the Easter eggs that I could find in the first episode of Arcane on Netflix. Let me know if you found any more. Let me know if you liked what you saw. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, all the fun stuff YouTubers tell you about. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.